some of the highlights from our Q&A sessions. Let's start with Team Chickpeas, which is our room 1. Do we have a volunteer from Team Chickpea to share some highlights?
Justine, maybe you can share for us. Okay, I'm happy to share.
Oh, you're on mute, doll.
Justine is on mute.
Yeah.
We can't hear you,
You're on
Justine.
mute.
Oh, she's
We want to hear it.
and everything too.
She doesn't want us to hear what she's saying.
I was actually playing with the Instagram because I was doing it live, and it all of a sudden went a little pear-shaped. So I was a little bit distracted. I apologize.
That's okay.
So I think our conversation was really about accessibility and how living in different cultures and having different experiences, people have a different level of education, different level of knowledge. And so Zuleyka, who grew up in London and grew up similar to me with people from everywhere from, Nigeria to South America to, because I went to the international school, we were raised with and exposed to a variety of different things. And the accessibility to those foods gave us a different palate and equally a different want and desire for different things, and equally gave us different accessibilities to things. And we talked about sort of the being in a metropolitan area versus being in a non-metropolitan area, and it all came down to education. I think we all agreed, and we learned a little bit about Zuleyka's company and how it's going to now come to Marin. So I too can eat more mindfully and have greater access to healthy food solutions, and equally be mindful of the environment and have access to that through her as another resource, and save money at the same time, which makes it even more accessible.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything, ladies?
I think that was the gist of it.
I love how international our rooms are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to Team Split Pea. Can we have a volunteer from Team Split Pea?
So that I think we missed the question from you guys, but we had some really great conversations about how to make food more accessible. And one of the things that we kind of dawned on was maybe not in Canada with Alana right now because it's probably too cold, but it just makes us realize how the importance of fresh food, and if there's an ability to be able to grow our own food in our backyards. I know Susan has a farm, she has a garden that she grows things, but it's such an imperative right now, and it's spring season, and here, and at least in California, it's kind of be a nice message to get out to people if that's something that they can do right now to kind of help the situation.
Yeah, and feel like they're becoming more self-sustainable as well, and engaging more with your food is just such a wonderful thing to do. To eat something that you grew yourself, like it really connects that whole local, fresh connotations in your mind about how great that is. Susan, do you want to comment about your victory garden?
Can we see the victory garden?
No.
I like visual aids.
I know, but it's too far from where I'm sitting.
Okay.
So what am I doing? So one of the reasons why I have a garden is that it really connects me to what's important, the earth, plants. I cook for a living, so I know nutritionally when we can get our food from the complete freshest moment, that it is the most energizing for our body. So I've been actually in a process of grief because my huge garden, which used to be a big, beautiful, sunny garden, is turned into very much of a shady garden. And so just today, I've decided to convert my front yard into a victory garden. And so that's how I'm using part of this time right now, is to imagine what I thought was something that I had to give up and build it somewhere else.
Adapting, I love it.
Yeah, adapting. Yeah, and I really hope that I actually inspire some people in my neighborhood.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I love how Susan speaks about her fresh produce as very melodious, and it's making me drool over some.
I'm very
Her
passionate about
food. Her
plants.
food will make you drool too. It's so great.
We definitely hear some common themes here, such as urban farming, which we also talked about, which is a very regenerative approach to engage everyone in making the food system a sustainable and a collaborative one. And we also talked about consumer education. And Rochelle mentioned some of her food challenges for this year, including gluten-free and sugar-free, and alcohol-free, some vegan challenges as well. I've been interviewing people in the food industry about food challenges, and it's not a surprise that a lot of people are really encouraged and excited about going plant-based and reducing food waste and plastic waste, packaging waste overall. So that was very cool. Now we're going to continue the second half of our panel, which is more focused on the COVID situation. So now we have this question, this crisis that really impacts food security in the US. Even before COVID-19, about 11% of US households who were considered food insecure. So what are some of the existing systems that responded effectively to addressing that? And what are some failures that should have been in place to help people in these critical times?
That's a good question.
That's definitely not me.
Yvette, do you mean just generally in terms of systems, or you mean in, can you just clarify a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. So when we think about those systems, there is USDA and FNS, which is Food Nutrition Service. These are the first to mind systems, but we also have the business side and even NGO volunteer organizations. Because everything is changing so quickly now, there are a lot of uncertainties. It's a time of solidarity, even though we don't have like a strategic alignment. So just what are some resources that you think have pivoted and provided really helpful food resources to people right now, not limited to USDA and FNS?
Yeah, I mean, I can begin and just say that there's one step right before that is getting information to people just on what is available where they are. And right now there's a real patchwork or tapestry, I guess, of trying to figure out what is available to you. Now, what is available to me here in the Bay Area is going to be different than what is available to Melissa in Joshua Tree, for example. We had this discussion about, where are farmers markets available there? Are they available here? What startups are available here that are not available there? And then there are other parts of the country where your only option is your local store, and maybe that the nearest store is shut or is limited in what it has, and therefore now you have to travel even further. Maybe it's food banks that are close to you if you need access to food banks, or maybe there are other relief support systems or NGOs. So one, there is a desperate need right now to build organizational information and structure that information and get that information to as many people. And then secondly, there's an effort to try to, as you said, have some solidarity. Right now, what is happening certainly here, I think in the Bay Area and probably in the other parts of the country as well, is there's a lot of individual organizations, nonprofits, startups, big companies working in isolation, in silos, all trying to do kind of the best that they can to cobble through. In the grocery sector in particular, we're in this kind of interesting class to where grocery stores and grocery services, along with doctors and hospitals, are in this class of individuals and companies that are able to be out and about and servicing and delivering and working in their stores and working on the front lines, right? And actually both being exposed to more members of the public. Especially if you work inside of a grocery store today, or if you're stacking shelves today, or if you're handling product that's coming in, as well as whether you're working in a medical institution as well. And a lot of those people internally have real concerns about doing that work, and then externally customers have questions and concerns about accessing those services in the first place. So right now we are going through a movement of even just trying to figure out what's available and at what capacity, because everything pretty much has either had to scale down its capability. Even a business like ours that is growing exponentially fast, we still cannot operate in normal times. It's very, very difficult to hire people, and integrate them. Yes, there's people that need work, but how do you integrate a workforce? How do you ensure you create a bigger and bigger workforce that doesn't get sick, that doesn't spread the virus between themselves, that is able to stay healthy and interact with the public? To what degree can they interact with the public? So that is, I think, one of the biggest pieces is the information piece today around, and we're all kind of trying to do it mostly in isolation today. I've only really seen measures today that are being announced around business loans, and much more aid relief to small businesses in particular, who are being forced to lay people off. And you have restaurants and smaller stores closing down, and you have other delivery services that are just not able to keep up and not manage. And we really need everything and everyone right now as much as we can. One, to provide people with jobs, but two, to have as many diverse food sources as possible as well, because that creates more and more instability in particular. But even other resources as well to help people to cook. We in our break off, we were talking about this movement right now where you have people trapped in their homes cooking 2 to 3 times a day for the very first time, cooking all their meals in a week. And a lot of people cannot cook and they don't know how to cook. And how can we help people? How can we create more platforms and share? And be that YouTube, or be that masterclass, or be that other resources as well? How can we democratize those resources again further to allow people to have access to those things? Especially if you don't cook, you probably don't have a bookshelf full of books on cooking and baking, and trying to figure out some of this stuff. Even simple things like making pasta with a sauce or boiling an egg. For many people, these are real challenges right now, as I'm coming to learn. And I have customers that are messaging us in, asking questions, rightfully, just questions about how to put ingredients together, questions about what's available, what's going to be available in a couple of weeks. And I think it says a lot about our environment and our country that the first thing people stocked up on was toilet roll. You don't need toilet roll. Toilet roll is actually probably the last thing that you need. You need staple foods. You need beans and rice and some grains. That's really what you need. And if you can just get some of those together, a reasonable amount together, you will be fine. But it says a lot about our day and our age, where for many people, the first thing they rushed for was toilet roll. And what you'll see in many other stores was, and we discussed this in our breakout group as well, was frozen pre-packed food. So it was actually frozen pre-packed food that was first gone across many grocery stores. And then it was beans and pasta and rice and those types of items as well, because people gravitated towards those items that they can very quickly microwave or they can throw in the oven, understandably. But again, there's a real sustainability issue there, because if that food source cuts off, people are now stuck. They're not going to be able to run and grab that many microwavable or frozen meals anymore, or they're going to be limited to what they can get.
There are so many brilliant things that Zuleyka just touched on now. Just to chime in, the crowd psychology of hoarding toilet paper rolls has absolutely been a phenomenon, not driven by rational decisions, but more as like a knee-jerk response, an act of
anxiety.
Yes, an act of fear and anxiety. But on the bright side, there's, food entrepreneurs, restaurateurs have experienced tremendous challenges, but if we can also see the silver linings, which is the burgeoning scene in delivery services, last mile deliveries. It's not only grocery deliveries, there is also food deliveries, even vending machines that can get innovative, which well, Megan's not with us here, but Bike Technology, it's one of the very innovative last mile solutions to bring affordable, convenient, healthy food to people in unattended stores, which is vending machines. So we can see this from an optimistic way, that this creates an opportunity of innovation, especially for food tech companies with their resources to come up in a short amount of time what they can do to meet the consumer's demand for healthy food at this moment. And we're going to, so speaking of food businesses right now, I'm sure ZeroShop.co has received a lot of orders recently, which is great, but we also think about the sustainability of the demand. So do people hoard things right now? And then how does it impact the demand in 3 months after hopefully this crisis comes to an end? Does that mean they're going to reduce their orders? How does the sustainability of the stream of revenue from COVID impact businesses? I think those are all really important questions for us to consider. So that brings us to the next question: how companies who are mission driven can utilize this opportunity to strengthen brand strategies, as well as make sure they're prepared for what comes after the crisis, like building brand equity and making sure you're forecasting consumer demands and shifts in tastes after the crisis. We have our panelists, Rob,
Yeah, I could.
specialize in branding strategy. Would you like to chime in?
Yeah. No, I think now is a great opportunity for all mission-driven food companies to really propel their mission forward. And clearly it depends on what your mission is as a food company. But assuming there is relevance in the crisis that we're in today, there's just an awesome opportunity to pursue that mission even more and apply it the values that you're building your brand with. I was mentioning in the breakout session how brand strategy really needs to have a foundation of mission and values. And if one of your values is sustainability, or it's something like the concept of goodness, or it's giving back to your community, right? We could talk about so many values that purpose-driven brands and companies have. There's probably one that's central to what we're all experiencing right now, and there's just an amazing opportunity really to activate that value against your mission in way of building your brand. But your brand's not necessarily the hero in that sense. You're just going into action in a crisis, right? You're walking your talk essentially, and you're highlighting a very specific dimension of your brand in a time that's kind of perfect to do that. And at the same time, you're creating good in the world. And so care should be taken about the messaging around that, and make sure that you are actually doing something good and it doesn't feel self-serving. And product placement is probably not part of the social media strategy. It's more about deeds, actions, things that you alone can do uniquely in this crisis, that just is telling a good story that then people want to know about. And there's plenty of examples outside of this. One of my favorite brands is Patagonia. When the Trump administration basically gave back all that protected land, and I guess it was maybe Utah or someplace like that, they put an ad on all their social media, changed the homepage of their website, and basically said, "The president stole your land," right? And so that's them showing what their value is. They want to protect the outdoors, and they want people who are passionate about the outdoors as they are to really be part of their tribe. And so that to me did not feel very self-serving at all, because they spent money about it, and it was very educational, and it was about trying to build public opinion against that and maybe overturning it, because that could easily have been something that everyone missed and didn't see. So there are opportunities like that to really live your values during this time.
I think Zuleyka looks like she has a lot of thoughts around this. I do follow Zero Shop Co's Instagram and social accounts, and I have been reading your branding messaging during this time of crisis. And I think so far it's been great. Like you said, there are people who don't know how to work. So I think you recently shared a social to share recipes that makes it kind of fun. You have emojis and things going on. I do know of a negative example, which is Soylent, this very techy powdered food substitute claim they're supposed to have a complete protein nutritional profile. They launched a social post encouraging people to somewhat hoard their products because it has a long shelf life, and that received an overwhelmingly negative social response. Possibly they lost customers just because of that one post, which they didn't take down yet. So
Right.
what do you think about this?
Well, that's totally self-serving, just my 2 cents, but go, Zuleyka.
I wasn't aware of that particular example.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up now when
Me too.
leave. We are currently experiencing wartime conditions. This is what we really must grapple with and understand. These are not only abnormal times, these are real war times, right? And I've read several articles that are like, prepare to be a wartime CEO. We're going through a period of war, and there's a real reckoning that is happening. And there's kind of two sides to this coin. There are really amazing businesses and amazing restaurants right now that are closing down. They are struggling, and they are suffering through this particular experience. And they have done absolutely nothing wrong as a business. It's usually smaller businesses or restaurants who've done absolutely nothing wrong, but simply cannot drive foot traffic today. And you've even seen restaurants that have been able to pivot and sell things like farmers' boxes of produce, for example, who've actually pivoted to trying to do deliveries. Now, that's not their bread and butter, but they've been trying to serve their community. And then on the other side of the scale, or the other side of the coin, you have, just as Rob was saying, a variety of companies. And the most important thing there, I would say, is authenticity. And in this time of reckoning, what you have right now is you really have a true sense of reckoning around authenticity and brand. Now is actually not the time to actively build your brand. You will actually fail to try to build a brand in these circumstances. You either have an organization and a company that is unable to thrive in this environment simply because of who or what you are, and maybe that is not of your own doing, or you're a company like myself where you are either helping the community and you have a product that is viable and is necessary and is needed, or you're either harming the community or you're self-serving in this particular environment. And all of that will come to the fore simply because customers and consumers and what we call our zero family today, people can see through what is going on. And everything you know and everything you think about marketing and advertising goes out the window. Because the thing that my customer cares about today is, are you here for them in this particular environment? Are you reliable? Are you doing what you say you're going to be doing? Do you stand true to the things that you've been claiming for all these weeks and these months? And either you're getting them the food or the produce or the thing that they need, or you're not. Or either you are serving them or you are not. And we have seen unbelievable growth in the past, particularly the past 6 weeks. I'm talking like triple-digit figures, percentage-wise, week on week, which is absolutely insane, even for a venture-backed business. And we hear consistently from our customers that they continue to have a genuine emotional connection, because right now the only thing that really matters is your emotional connection to something, because you're experiencing something viscerally that is really difficult to go through. So I, as a consumer, I kind of don't care right now about brands that are trying to push me something. And I'm also happy to pay slightly more for something if it means it's reliable, or if it means I can trust the source that it's coming from, or it feels like it's not riding a particular wave. And that's now more important than ever, especially in grocery or food, grocery is a very price sensitive market, right? Usually groceries, we're birthed and we die based on how much we charge usually. And so you've got this real reckoning that is happening. And, PR agencies can do nothing for me right now. Marketers can do absolutely nothing, nor do I want them to do anything for me right now. What's important to me is connecting with my community, and that community continues to bring more people to my door, and I will try to service as many people as I can. I cannot service everyone, but I'm also much smaller than some of these bigger folks who are really genuinely struggling to service because they've also seen a huge increase. And you hear things like 300,000 workers being added, 100,000 workers being added to the likes of Amazon or Instacart, Walmart, 150,000 being added. But as an industry, we also have to figure out, how do we do those things? How do we continue to service the population? And there will be winners and losers that come out of this, simply because we weathered this storm and we stood by and we grew our customer base during this particular time in the right way. And I was told many, many times that for sure nobody will want plastic-free stuff during this period. For sure nobody wants sustainability during this period. And actually it's the complete opposite of what we're seeing. We've even seen an uptake simply because people like the sturdy, wipe clean jars. They didn't want people touching their goods over and over again in a store that's in a flimsy plastic or paper box, for example, or product that's been picked on and off the shelves by you're not sure by whom. So, we've seen a value proposition resonate we never even anticipated, yet people have continued to share us on social media and share it with their friends and say, look, there's an alternative out there that can get you stuff, that can get it for you next day, that is a really good price point. Yeah, we don't have 10,000 items in the store. We have 350 items in the store, but it's enough for you to build a basket and get what you need pretty much the next day here. And that really resonates. And there are other brands right now that are resonating for the same types of reasons. And you'll see many brands, maybe the one you mentioned and others, that will really struggle to come back from the inauthenticity that they're displaying today.
Just sounds like you have this unwavering accountability to your customer. And I mean, I come from a camp where it starts with the customer and it ends with the customer. And, I think that just stems from your own essence as a person, and that's trickling down into your company too, which is extraordinary.
And thank you so much. That really means a lot to me as well, because how do you say to people, I'm going to deliver to you in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now. By the way, when I deliver, half your items are going to be missing. And then once I've delivered only 50% of your basket, it's going to take me 4 weeks to give you a refund. That is the experience that many, many people are having online. And then when they're going into their local stores, they're either faced with a lack of stuff on the shelves. And then I hear real experiences of people who work inside of those stores getting real abuse from people who are making demands of items that they want, or why have you run out of this thing, or displaying a behavior that, those individuals who work in those stores have to put up with, or other shoppers have to put up with. So there's a lot of illogical behavior that's going on right now. And there are a lot of brands that are doing dirty by people right now because they haven't either put the effort in. And I'm talking about companies that have a lot more money than I have. And it doesn't make sense to me why some of this stuff is not working. And it's not working because it's driven purely by greed. It's not built by, how can I make a profit and build a company and hire people and also service as many people as possible? It's better that I service 50 people and do it well than I try to service 100 people today and do it miserably and end up serving only 10. And the latter is the experience that most people are having today. So I appreciate that. And again, the more we can support the local companies, the local businesses that are in our neighborhoods, when we come out from this apocalypse, there will be companies and restaurants and grocery stores to continue to go to, then coming out and finding that there is a barren wasteland of nothingness left, because we have only been able to consume from a couple of giants that have done wrong by us during this period.
That is very powerful. Thank you for sharing a really encouraging message. I think we are all going to check out Zero Groceries after this call today. Okay, well, it's 7:30 now. I think we've had you for more than an hour, and it's good to move around. But before we wrap up this evening, let's share some work from home tips and tricks and things to do to de-stress, because we need those. We have some resident experts on working from home in the audience that I know. So people feel free to chime in.
I think just simply engaging this way is definitely beneficial. I know for me, I love to be out and about. Like that's where I just like thrive the most. But when I have to be home, you know, trying to keep that energy up is sometimes challenging. So for me, I like to go for a walk, you know, and make sure you're eating proper. I find that is like the first to slide a little bit, you know, you're closer to the kitchen and you kind of like just eat a lot more things maybe you shouldn't. But we try to keep everything balanced.
Yeah, I think balance is a really big thing. Just like as a management consultant, I've worked from home for the last 2 years. So this isn't a real shocking situation for me, but I think that one thing that I built in is just having the routine, making sure that every day I still get up at 6. I mean, today I was up way earlier than that, but you know, just having the routine and getting up and making sure you go for a walk, you know, having a plan to eat healthy and take breaks and do that. Because like sometimes when you work from home, you just start to crank because you're not distracted by anything. And all of a sudden you started working at 7 a.m. and it's 6 o'clock and you're like, holy shit, I haven't gotten up all day to, you know, just be a regular human being and not a robot. And, you know, like I build in a lot of calls during the day that kind of break things up so that I can have a human interaction like this. It's incredible how much you can actually create synergy just through, you know, a conference call or, you know, FaceTiming somebody or whatever it is. And just having some patience with yourself and patience with others too, because they may not be, you know, gripping and grappling the situation as eloquently as you are. So that's definitely where I'm at with a lot of things right now, because I'm an old pro at all this. So it's just like taking a little bit of time to have empathy for situations that other people might be in, having children around or a dog, or, you know, just maybe they have, you know, can't sit still for a long period of time. Who knows? So that's kind of what I recommend.
As you can see, I'm an advocate of the dogs. They really add a little levity to your life.
They're behaving right now. I am shocked.
I don't even know where the other one is.
So is my little one.
Behaving.
A dog.
They're not barking.
Yeah.
But I also, you know, similar to you, I like a little bit of balance. And, you know, I've worked from home for years. You know, in my former life, when I ran a gaming company for 10 years, I worked remotely, and I would every day create, you know, I'm going to have a breakfast meeting, I'm going to have a lunch meeting. So I made sure to get out and engage with other people. So this, while different because we're clearly in the house, still requires, I think, creating those same routines for yourself. You know, I try to walk the dogs. That doesn't always happen. It's been raining, it's been cold, I'm lazy, I don't know, a whole variety of reasons. And we have now included, we're incorporating into our community is mindfulness, and we've brought on a new partner. And so every day I've been listening to him and getting his texts and reading his messaging to see how we're going to incorporate it into our community. So I take that time also to practice that. And I think that that's really important and powerful. If anybody's interested in that, I can also send you the link. And I'd love the feedback so we know if it's something that the community would like.
Thank you, Justine. Now we're coming close to a closure. So, well, thank you again, everyone, for this very special night. I'm absolutely feeling encouraged to have entrepreneurs or people who are interested and supportive, are feeling supportive of the food industry, and at this special time. And I'm sure we all are walking away from this talk learning about things you haven't thought of in creating access to healthy foods, and how to support businesses as well as people around you and yourself through this time. I'm going to let Justine, as our founder of NextGenChef, to close the evening.
Well, I just want to thank you, Yvette, for moderating this and putting this together. You did a wonderful job. It was the first time that we've done this online, so we appreciate everyone's patience with us. And we're only hoping to grow from this and be able to provide more content. We've put together great programming coming up, so that we're going to be having things Monday through Friday, one thing a day, but it's really going to be geared towards our foodpreneurs as well as the end consumers, to be able to give them the access to the education, the mentors, the resources that they need during this really critical time as things are changing. And so mentors like Rob and having mentors like him and some of the others, as well as our panelists, give people the access to that kind of information and insight that otherwise they might not have. So we're really grateful to have both our panelists, our mentors, and our members here today, because it's what makes our community unique and robust. And so any feedback that you guys have about this, that you like, that you didn't like, that you'd like to see differently in the future, please, email us. You can email me directly, justine@nextgenchef.com. And I take it seriously and will work to do my best to integrate it in the future. If there's any topics that you'd like to hear about specifically, we are putting together more and more programming. So we're going to be doing things that are, topical like we normally do about food and sustainability or food as medicine, but we're also going to be putting together topical things like, understanding your audience in this time and branding as things are changing, so that as people need to shift because of the climate, they're going to now have the access to the resources they need and be able to participate in conversations that will allow them to connect, collaborate, and innovate in a new way based on the new set of circumstances. So the last thing I just want to say is I wanted to thank Rob and Zuleyka for leading this and really being taking a leap of faith with us. This is a new thing for us to do online, and equally maybe give them an opportunity just to share contact information if they're open to it. So anybody out there that wants to order from Zero Shop can, unless you live in Marin like me, or Joshua Tree.
Sure.
And Rob,
you can find us at you can find us at zeroshop.co. That's .co, not .com, where the cool kids live. You can get me, Zuleyka, at zeroshop.co. And if you go on the site and you click sign up, you live in the Bay Area, you can use the code HALLO0 to get 1 month free subscription. That's HALLO0, ZERO, all in caps. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. I've had a really long and stressful day, and I was actually really looking forward to meeting and seeing new people. My last tip of the day is, it's not as dignified as what anybody else has shared, but my husband and I, who are both founders and live in the same space, have an imaginary work colleague called Cheryl, and we blame everything on Cheryl. And it is the best tip that I can share, because we hate her. I mean, she leaves the dishes in the sink, and she is terrible. So that would be my final tip to anybody that is struggling to work with a partner or kids, or is more than one person in a home. Just have a Cheryl in the home. It really, really helps.
I'm gonna do that.
Cheryl's at it again.
Cheryl's at it again, yeah.
Thank you, everybody. It was wonderful joining.
Thank you. Great meeting
Yeah.
everybody.
Did Rob give his details in case anyone?
Yeah, no, my space bar wasn't working on the unmute. Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure for me as well. I love talking about branding. I obviously have a passion about it, and really trying to help purpose-driven companies infuse all of their branding with mission and values is really my sweet spot. You can check out my website at ironriverconsulting.com. we're not cool kids. We don't have the .co. Grabbed one of those .com things. And I can be reached at rob@ironriverconsulting.com. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. As Justine mentioned, I'm a mentor with NextGenChef. Love to help small companies, so feel free to reach out to me. Happy to jump on a call and give you some advice.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, so nice to meet everyone. Everyone be healthy and safe. And
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
good
Be
stuff.
safe.
Bye.
Thanks, Yvette.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks, Yvette. Great job.
Bye. Yeah.